Welcome to the May Day 2023 Workers' Forum. I'm Enver Villamizar. I'm here with Pierre Chénier, Secretary of the Workers' Center of the Communist Party of Canada, Marxist-Leninist. Pierre, thanks for joining us today.
I thank you for having me. It's great to be with you, Enver.
Can you discuss some of the challenges that you think are facing the workers on the occasion of May Day 2023?
Yes, certainly. According to the Workers' Center, the overall challenge is for the workers' movement to become a collective, organized, efficient force in defending the claims that the workers have as producers, which belongs to them by right, to defend the rights of all, and to provide solutions to the problems facing society, solutions that favor the people. The refusal of the workers to be silenced, to be marginalized, to be silent in all this. This is the starting point of opening a way forward for the people. I would like to give you an example about what is going on. And this is the example of the healthcare bill that was tabled by the Quebec government. I think it was on March 29, under the hopes of improving the efficiency of the health system. So what they do is that they have introduced a chain of command that starts from the ministerial powers, then goes to a board of directors of a society, of an organization that they are creating, which is called Santé Québec, Agence Québec, and which is going to be filled by what the minister calls a top gun of the private sector. And from this chain of command, the Santé Québec will be putting forward bodies in a single chain of command under the ministerial power. So what they are doing is that, or they are planning to do, is to deal with the problem on a statistical basis. They call that expérience patient, patient experience. What does it mean? It is not based on the actual conditions. It is not based on what the workers are saying. So he gave the example, Dubé, his name is Dubé, that they will say, okay.
That's the Minister of Health in Quebec?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who himself was a banker. That, so they will make a comparison, okay, 16 hours there to have access to emergency, to be seen by a doctor. Then the other one is 14. The other one is 12. It has nothing to do with going into the matter. So according to us, pairing is to give themselves the power to, on the basis of the statistics, to merge, to close, to privatize, whatever they feel like. And this is already happening, like in Three Rivers, this is already happening. But this is creating an autocratic structure to do that from top to bottom. Meanwhile, the bill gives the government the power to merge the bargaining units, the unions. Right now, there are 136 of them, establishment, with 4 workers in each. Now they are planning to, because they call the Quebec a one establishment, to have only 4 bargaining units in all the province, in all Quebec. This means that any local empowerment will be lost, local collective agreements will be lost, and they are saying that this is perfectly legal, and that tells us a lot about what they mean by being legal. It is not legal based on the interests of the workers and of people. So At the press conference, which is very interesting, Minister Dubé, he said that he got the inspiration for the bill from the pandemic. Oh, because he said the pandemic created a cohesion between government and the people. Well, you may be aware that this government managed the whole pandemic through ministerial orders. Ministerial orders that give them the power to cancel all negotiated working conditions of the unions. And this is what happened for 2.5 years. This caused a massive crisis, resignation of thousands of healthcare workers, especially nurses, who either left the sector, went to the private agencies, and these ministerial orders, they were renewed over 100 times during 2.5 years. They were renewed without any discussion or input of the healthcare workers, and without any input of the National Assembly. They were not submitted to vote. It is the renewal, the ministerial order renewing itself with ministerial order. So then this means that what they are doing is making these ministerial order permanent. And so they say that it is going to create stability in the system. Obviously, it is the opposite. Now we have the example of New Brunswick that you may be aware in December, that's called Bill 23. The New Brunswick government said, well, we have to deal with the situation when there are strikes. So what they did is that during a strike, you usually have a deal, like there is a deal with the federal public sector workers at the moment, about the workers who are considered essential. And that bill gives the right to the provincial government to pick up any workers outside of the bargaining units in the unionized, ununionized, migrants, contractors, to become replacement workers, which means to be scabs. So this shows how they are removing any limitation that maybe they could have in attacking the workers, and they put further limitation on the workers themselves. So I can give you another or two examples. The gig workers, the temporary workers, they are being abused mercilessly. More and more, the new immigrants or international students are used by the companies as a source of cheap labor, and many times as scabs on behalf of the monopolies. And they don't even know when they come here that this is going to happen to them. And then when the workers denounce this, they are told that, well, you're opposed to migrant workers. This is not the case. They're opposed to them being used against the working class. Well, they are workers, as any other workers. Okay, so now I would like to talk a little bit about what is happening in the railways, because it's very significant. You have the Canadian example of the government siding with CP and private railways to self-regulate the industry. And that caused Lac Mégantic tragedy, which people are well aware. We're going to mark the 10th anniversary of the tragedy in July of this year. But in the US, rail derailments are a daily occurrence. And I'm saying daily. And you had a few months ago in East Palestine, where massive toxic material was deployed or was, in the air, incommodating people and creating problem with the environment, damage to the natural environment. So the workers are fighting that very hard. And what the rail monopolies are doing, and that includes CN and CP, because they are also considered as North American Class 1 railways, is they have introduced what they call precise scheduled railroading. So this looks good because who is for being imprecise? But that is not what it means. What it means is that they are dictating that the trains and the cars be on the move constantly. They say it's a waste of time if they are in a while in the yards and then you have to do maintenance to fix problem. Now they say it has to be all the time on the road, which means that they are picking off the cars on the road and adding them to the trains, irrespectively how long the train becomes, irrespectively of the weight, irrespectively of the hazardous material that is in it. And the government says it is fine. This is self-regulation. So the US railway workers, they waged a big fight in last year and even a couple of months to say we refuse that. And they rejected the offer that the railways gave them. And they say, no, we want to reduce fatigue. We want to increase maintenance, because keeping the trains all the time on the move, keeping the cars all the time on the move, the maintenance is neglected. And then instead of having the support of the US state, the Biden administration in December 2022 imposed by law the offer of the rail companies that the workers had rejected. He said, this is a law. You have to abide by this so-called collective agreement, which I never agreed with. And he rejected all the demands of the workers about fatigue, about maintenance, about fixing, about being disciplined if they're absent, even to see their doctors. All this is, so how do you have a safe railways when the human force is unsafe? Those who are giving the service, they are at the end of what they can stand physically. So this is, to my mind, is one of the most blatant example of state restructuring so that the dictate of the rail monopolies becomes the law. And this is what happened a couple of months ago, a few months ago. But I would like to speak to the other way around, which is since May Day 2022, the workers' movement has made definite headway in breaking the limitations that are imposed on it, whether it is by the governments, the courts, the rich, or their media. For example, in Ontario, the very brave act of defiance of the education workers when against Bill 28, which was an imposition by the Ford government of the contract that the workers rejected, and the defiance of the notwithstanding clause through which the Ford government shielded itself on a legal, standpoint from the protests. And so the workers defeated that by saying no and by going to the public opinion, to the tribunal of public opinion, to present their cause, and by gaining support of the whole workers' movement. And that was a headway, because the Ford government was forced to back off, to withdraw the bill. And if you go on the website of the government, they even adopted that the bill never happened.
Right.
They've erased it.
Yeah.
They said, we've never invoked the notwithstanding clause. This is a real victory by going to the tribunal of public opinion, saying no, and mobilizing the support of the people. Now, we do have very important action of the healthcare workers that, like we have nurses who have organized strike actions in Quebec, in many places, in New York, in various hospitals in Quebec. Then we have this example, which is very interesting. As you know, the Quebec Federation of Labor held its Congress a few months ago. And then they decided to call the Estates General of the trade union movement in the coming future.
Can you just explain what an Estates General means?
Well, it would be just a kind of conference of all the unions to discuss the future of the trade union movement.
Right.
And it was adopted unanimously. This is telling us that the workers' movement is making headway in its understanding that they have to wage the fight in a new way. And so this is going to be not to limit themselves to what the rich and their governments and the media say, this you can do, this you cannot do. This cannot be our reference point. Our reference point is our needs, our rights, the needs that we have, the needs of society. And we see that more and more in society, this is becoming put forward. So these are some examples that are quite significant in how headways are being made in the consciousness and in the actions of the workers. Our outlook is to build an economy that serves the people, an economy that recognizes rights, that is controlled by the people. Our concern, our outlook is not to have economy that serves the US domination against others. Whether you call that economic race, this is not our outlook. Our outlook is cooperation between the sectors of the economy, building an economy that does trade with the others on the basis of mutual benefit, not domination, that do all these things. And that it is an outlook that advocates the cooperations between the peoples of the world to build a world and an economy that is fit for human being. Our outlook is adamantly opposed to this integration to the war machine and to say, okay, we are at war economically against our competitors, and the competitors are the other peoples of the world. Workers are not different than Canadians. They want Canada to be a zone for peace, not part of a military and economic bloc under the thumb of the US empire builders. This has never benefited the workers or their communities to date, and it will not benefit either now, especially that the situation is so dangerous. Every day, don't we see example of US cartels using their power and privilege to violate workers' rights and try to eliminate their unions? This is happening right in Windsor. The Windsor salt strike where this US cartel says, if you don't agree to our dictate about subcontracting, we have no agreement with you. You'll stay out. And the government helps this US cartel by having injunctions that allow the cartels to move salt wherever it wants in an attempt to break the strike. How is it beneficial to us? So that is a serious matter of the outlook of the working class on these matters, which we are pushing forward with all our might. Because the workers do have solutions. You see, and this is what is being negated. You see this very low level position of the federal government, which tells the public servant workers that, you know, we have statistics. And if we give you what you want, we won't be able to provide the services. The workers are the ones who are providing services. They have a right to a claim on what they produce. So this is called the dignity of labor. Dignity of labor, yes, it's on economic terms. Dignity of labor is also that the workers play a role in Canada being a zone for peace. This is the dignity of labor which raises the prestige and the stand of the working class in all the affairs of society, including on the Earth Day, the issue of a natural and social environment. That is dignity of labor. Well, that requires a journalism that takes up these matters with them, interviews them, gathers them so that, okay, how do we deal with these problems? And that is a very big headway that is being done, that we have a national audience that takes part. Instead of giving up our own thinking and experience from those, you know, these ruling classes and their parties that says you have to do what we tell you is reasonable. So we encourage those who are interested in this important work to keep sending reports on their living and working conditions and their views on all matters of concern, so that the unity of the workers in action, we're able to broaden it and to strengthen it. That is a key feature of the response to the situation, to become a collective, organized, and efficient force. To have that press, these meetings, these Zooms, these interviews, and all this. That we need to have power in our hands so that we are able to defend the rights, but solve these very serious problems that include the problem of peace, not just the economic problems, all of them, in a human-centered way. This is my message. This is our message on May Day. We can do it. The workers can prevail. They're already striving to prevail, and we are building these institutions, the press and all this, the public opinion, that make us a collective, organized, efficient force in defending the dignity of labor in the most profound way. That would be not my final word, but for this interview.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. And
I thank you. It was really a pleasure.